Okay, hello once again. Today we'll be doing about constant price elasticity of demand. This has appeared in one of the questions in the exam before. Although this is a slightly more complex subject, okay, I'm sure that we can handle it easily. Okay, common mistakes made by most people is that they think that because the price elasticity is a constant, they would draw the demand curve in this particular manner. Okay, this is wrong. This basically means that the demand is perfectly elastic. It doesn't show anything about constant price elasticity of demand. Okay, so to start, let's look at the formula of price elasticity of demand. Okay, price elasticity of demand is denoted as this, and the formula is change in quantity of X demanded, change in price divided by change in price, multiplied by price of X divided by quantity of X demanded. Okay, now we know that every time we go down the x-axis, we look at this portion now, the price of X will be falling. Why? Because the demand curve is always negatively sloped, so we can see that as we go along the x-axis, P is falling, and as we go along the x-axis, X is increasing. Therefore, this whole equation here is actually falling. Now, when this whole portion here is falling, in order for this to be constant, this has to be increasing. Now, let's examine this. So dx over dp has to be increasing, and if you flip this around, it will be dp over dx. So since I flipped it around, the direction of its change has to change as well, so it will be decreasing, and you realize that dp over dx actually gives us the slope or gradient of the curve. Now we know that dp over dx has to be falling, so therefore we have come up with the conclusion that the slope must become flatter as we move along the x-axis. So how is this going to look like? Very quickly, this is our graph of price and quantity. So at every quantity of X, as we move along the x-axis, the slope has to be flatter and flatter. Flatter, flatter, flatter. So now we apply our demand curve to this. This is what we'll get, and this is how the demand curve is supposed to look like. Now we talk about marginal revenue. Marginal revenue, you have to recall that the equation is this: MR equals to P multiplied by 1 minus 1 over absolute value of price elasticity of demand. Now the first step is to take note that the price elasticity of demand will always be less than 1. Why? Because the monopolist always sells and produces at the inelastic portion of the demand curve. Now since we know that this value is less than 1, that means 1 over the absolute value of price elasticity of demand has to be more than 1. And when this is such a case, the bigger equation, 1 minus 1 over price elasticity of demand, would have to be less than 1. Now, therefore, if it's less than 1, it has to be 0 point something something something. So this becomes a fraction. To make things easier, let's represent this whole thing over here by another alphabet, which is B. So now what we have is MR equals to price multiplied by B, and we have to know that B here is less than 1. So B is always a fraction. Now we go back to the demand curve. I will write this here so that we can all remember. MR equals to P multiplied by a fraction number, P X. This is our demand curve, at this quantity of X over here, okay, if you bring it up to the demand curve, this is the price. Now we know that the price is the marginal revenue is a fraction of price, so we know that it is definitely have to lie below this point, so somewhere here. Okay, I will continue to do this, okay, for the rest of the quantities of X. Okay, and eventually I will get a curve that looks like this, MR. Okay, now notice that, okay, the gap between the marginal revenue and the demand curve keeps on getting smaller. Why? Because it's the very fact that Bravo here, B, is a fraction of price. Okay, so when B is always a fraction of price, okay, as price becomes smaller, okay, and Bravo remains constant, okay, MR keeps on getting smaller. Okay, and to see the distance between D and MR, okay, you just basically take P multiplied by 1 minus Bravo. 1 minus Bravo is the distance between this, is the gap between demand curve and MR. Okay, this will only get bigger. Sorry, this will be constant. Okay, and as this is constant, when price becomes larger, okay, when price becomes smaller, the gap will become smaller, but it will never touch each other. Okay, that is for constant price elasticity of demand. Okay, I hope you guys do well for your studies. Thank you very much for viewing my channel.